きらめいて揺らめいて青き夢舞い放つ花燃えゆく
Let's go ahead and talk about it, boys. You may have seen the tweet. If you haven't, follow me on Twitter, !social. You may have seen the tweet. My anime most controversial opinions. I think that these are probably my top 3 controversial opinions. I have a lot of controversial opinions, but these might be within the top 3 here. Okay. Jojo. Okay, now take into account, I have not watched part 5 yet. JoJo's from part 1 to part 4 is gas. I'm sorry to say it. Somebody had to say it. JoJo's is complete gas from part 4 below. Look, I like JoJo's, like, and that's the thing. Like, I hate when I'm put in these situations, okay? When there's something that I like, but I have to shit on it because it ain't as good as niggas say, okay? And I feel like it's a similar situation how Lotus was saying that Fullmetal Alchemist is gas. I think he's smoking dick on that one. We could fight. I'll fight that nigga on that opinion. I don't really give a shit. But JoJo's, bro, you gotta be kidding me. Part 1 to 4 is gassed, bro. Again, haven't seen part 5 yet. And I've seen like, I think 7 episodes of part 5. I can tell I'm gonna love part 5. Like, I'm just gonna tell you right now, I'm likely going to really, really love it. But let's talk about the JoJo shit, okay? JoJo's part 1. All right, in my opinion, niggas shit on this part way too much. And this gonna come as a hot take. Again, that's what we're doing here. This gonna come as a hot take. I'd rather watch part 1 than part 4. I said it. I said what I said. And I did what I said. I'd rather watch part 1 than part 4. That's right, I said it. Now, I'm gonna get to part 4 here in a second. Okay? Let me go over each part. Okay, part 1, in my opinion, has a lot of charm, and if you ask me, is quite the bizarre adventure. I really like part 1. People say that part 1 is like slow, but I think you need to rewatch part 1 again because part 1 moves fast as shit. Like, I never realized it before until I rewatched part 1. That show is schmoving, bro. Part 1 flies by hella quick. I love part 1. Now, is there shit that don't make sense? Yes. But it's a shonen anime, nigga. Nothing makes sense, bitch. And that's on facts. That's on facsimile, bro. Nothing makes sense. And that's on the one singular God, okay? Now, part 2. Okay, part 2, I feel like is, it deserves some gas. Part 2 is flames, okay? Now, it doesn't have the stance and shit like everybody likes, but in my opinion, part 2, it feels the most like a regular shonen anime, in my opinion. It's still got like JoJo's quirkiness and all that other bullshit, but it feels the most like a regular ass like kind of like shonen anime. So I think it's easier to digest for a lot of people. And also I feel like it has some twists and shit thrown in there. It's very entertaining. Joseph Joestar is a very, very entertaining main character. And when he be like, yo, you about to say subscribe to my Patreon, and then the bitch be like, subscribe to my Patreon. Nani? How did he know I was gonna say that? It just hit, bro. I'm not gonna lie, it just hit. And the end of like the ending portion of part 2, that shit slap. I said that shit slap. I'm not gonna get into spoilers here, but like, what I'm saying, certain things happen to certain people. That shit made me crack through my penis, not even finna hold you, and through my eyes as well. And then like the last fight was dope. In my opinion, what part 2 suffers is the villains. I don't think the villains are really cool in my opinion. Like it's cool at first, I think, but then after a while, like I don't know, I just don't think they're like all that cool. Like it ain't Dio type beat. And like here's the thing, like people always talking about, oh, my pussy hurt, villains gotta be complex and shit. It's like, no, not really. You don't really need complexity like Kira in part 4, but in my opinion, Dio is that nigga and one of my favorite villains because he's just that nigga. Like Dio come up on the screen and kick a dog in the throat. For why? Because he's Dio. That's why. Because he's that dude. So, Dio that guy. And then with part 2, I love part 2. And then part 3 come around, and part 3 is unanimously, well, not unanimously, but it's infamously shit on because it's like a monster of the week type anime, okay? And I get that. It's a valid criticism, right? And that's the thing, right? I ain't gonna sit here and like take away your criticism as long as it's valid. It's valid. Like part 3 can be pretty slow. Part 3 do be monster of the week type beat, and that's not for everybody. I understand that. I get that. True. Real shit. But you're a bitch. Let me tell you why. Part 3, slap. The fights are dope, and I feel like you needed to have part 3 be what it was, so that way you get accustomed to stands. I feel like part 3 needs to be what it is, so that way you can get a true grasp on the complexity of stands and the fact that they can really do or be anything, right? And I feel like having a long monster of the week battle anime where there's different new unique stands every week really builds up the expectation in your head that, oh shit, okay, fucking anything can happen. Like a ship that we're using to travel to Egypt can be a stand. You know what I mean? A random gorilla can be a stand, you know, or have a stand, right? Like it's like that. Like shit can get bizarre. But in my opinion, that's what I think like part 3 needed to be the way it is, but I can completely understand why that might turn some people off. But that being said, there are some dope fights in part 3, especially like once they touch down in Egypt. From that point onward, the show's flames. Like I don't care what you say. Also, the last few episodes with everything, with a final climax and shit, flames. You can't tell me otherwise. Also, one thing I really love about part 3 that I'm gonna get into here with part 4 and why I don't really like part 4, like shit hit in part 3, bro. Again, I ain't gonna spoil nothing, but there was shit that happened in part 3 that made a nigga cry, okay? There was characters that I fucking completely hated in the beginning, and then JoJo's made me like said character, okay? That shit flames, in my opinion. So, for that reason, I rate part 3 pretty highly. And I think part 3 is flames, bro. By flames, I mean like it's flames with like an asterisk next to it, right? Like there's flames parts about it, but it can be kind of a drag. It can be kind of like, you know, the monster of the week, you get kind of bored sometimes, especially if you're watching week to week. Damn, that sounds tough, homie. That sounds tough. And then we get into part 4. Okay, when I got to part 4, everybody was like, yo, part 4, this is when JoJo's becomes JoJo's. Like part 4 about to be your favorite part out of parts 1 through 3. Some people said that part 4 was their favorite part of JoJo's. So when niggas said that, I'm expecting gas. So I start watching part 4, and off rip, I fuck with Josuke the long way. The reason why I fuck with Josuke is because at the time I was growing my hair out, right? And I didn't have like a pompadour, I had like a quiff or something like that, right? And I felt like the same way about my hair that Josuke felt about his. You know what I'm saying? Homeboy was always combing his hair. Somebody touch his hair, talk some shit about his hair, you get clapped up. Same shit. I fucks with that, okay? Where JoJo's part 4 really lost me was the fact that it felt like it was doing shit like part 3 did, like the monster of the week kind of thing, except in my opinion, it was far more boring because they had like a lot of slice of life stuff in there, and it was just a bunch of boring shit. Like there were so many parts in that show where I'm just like, dude, I don't care about any of this shit, right? Like at least when I didn't give a fuck about what was happening in part 3, fucking Jotaro would walk up and be like, oh, that shit was fucking flames. I'm sorry, like I like seeing Jotaro punch some shit, but in part 4 there were just a lot of moments that is like really like that shit was kind of a drag, right? And then, you know, Kira come through, and Kira is like saves part 4, but Kira don't come through in part 4 until pretty late in the show. So like what you doing before that? You ain't doing shit. You sitting there, you're just watching mid. You watching JoJo's mid adventure. I said it. Bombard me with dislikes and comments or whatever the fuck, because this shit probably going on YouTube. Fuck with me, bro. Part 4 is boring, okay? And look, there's characters I fuck with in part 4. Like Koichi goes through a pretty good transformation in part 4. I fuck with Koichi. I fuck with Yosuke. And who the nigga name is? Draw nigga with the green hair type beat. What this dumb bitch's name? Rohan. And Rohan is like he's my favorite design character in JoJo's Part 4, aside from maybe Jotaro, but he looks the coolest. I fuck with Rohan type beat. Okay? And then you get the dumb nigga Okuyasu. This nigga got the most broken stand in the show and is worthless because he's an idiot. Okuyasu, you fucking moron. Your stand is broken. It's literally overpowered. But you're a stupid shit and can't utilize it. You dumbass. Okuyasu kind of has some charm to him. I'm not gonna lie. But a lot of the side characters, in my opinion, are trash. Also, Shigechi. Bro, never in my life have I hated a character more. And the thing is, unlike with part 3, when they introduced a character I fucking hated, Shigechi never got better. Shigechi remained unlikable, unfuckwittable from day one, okay? And another reason why I don't like part 4 is because, like, part 1, 2, and 3 have some tragedy in them, right? Like, I feel like if you're watching part 1 raw dog, you don't expect what happens at the end of part 1 to happen. At least I didn't. And then part 2, there's some tear-jerky moments in there, right? Part 3, a nigga cried 37 times watching that shit. Not really, but like, this shit got me sad. Part 4, the only time somebody died, I was happy. Again, I ain't gonna spoil, but the only time a nigga died, I clacked my heels together. I started twerking. I was amped. I was like, thank God. Like, nothing happened in part 4 that like hit me emotionally. And I think for the type of anime watcher I am, you gotta throw some emotions in there, bro. Like, let me be attached to a character. Let me cry. Let me feel something. But I didn't really feel nothing. There was some suspense. Like, I legitimately had no idea how they were going to beat Kira. Like, that was a cool part of it. Like, towards the end of the show, I did get roped in because I'm like, all right, how they beating this nigga? Because he seems unbeatable, right? So I did like fuck with that on that aspect. But for the most part, part 4 is just a trudge to get through. And that's going to lead into another point that I got here about my anime hot takes. But yeah, that's my opinion on JoJo's. Overly gassed. Even the parts that I really like, there's just so much more anime that I like more than the JoJo's that I've watched so far. So even like with part 2, which I really like, and part 3, which I really like, there's still anime out there. I would much rather watch an anime out there that I deem to be way better. I just don't see how JoJo's gets the gas it does, personally. That's my opinion. And y'all could crucify me for it. All right. Anime hot take number 2. Niggas gonna get mad at me for this one. Death Note is better than Geass. Okay, let's talk about this. Because I know you niggas gonna be upset. I know y'all gonna be upset. Okay, let me go ahead and tell you why, me personally, I like Death Note more than Code Geass. So, let me go, before I go into Code Geass, because here's the thing, both anime, in my opinion, are amazing, and I still think to this day, Code Geass has probably the best ending to an anime I have ever seen. That ending was immaculate, perfect, great job. Here's why I like Death Note more than Geass, okay? Let me give Geass some points. Geass has a much better cast, a more robust cast, and a cast that I cared about more than Death Note. Death Note really only has a few characters, in my opinion, that you really like care about. Whereas Death Note, or Geass rather, has a lot more for you to get attached to, and the cast is a lot more diverse, and the characters are much better in Geass than Death Note. And that's about the only thing Code Geass does better than Death Note. and let's go ahead and talk about this, because the biggest knock you're gonna hear against Death Note is that the second part of Death Note, when a certain thing happens, again, no spoilers here, but when a certain thing happens, if you watch the show, you already know what I'm talking about. A lot of people say that Death Note dives down a hill and gets horrible. Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. First of all, that thing doesn't happen until like episode, I think it's episode like 27 when that happens. And Death Note is 37 episodes. So I always thought that half of Death Note was bad, because for whatever reason, I had it in my head. I think it's because a lot of people tweet this shit, that Death Note is split into two halves, where one half is with this sort of storyline going in, and then the other half is the other storyline. That's not true. The change happens in episode like 27. That is far towards the latter half of the show. So you're talking about from episodes 1 to about 26 or so is where the show still remains high quality and great, okay? And in my opinion, that 1 to 26 episodes far outweighs Code Geass, because for the type of anime watcher that I am, Code Geass is far too slow. Like, I can understand being a slow burner and like trying to get that thing going, but Death Note moves, bro. Death Note is moving, bro. Shit happens fast in Death Note. Like, there were things that like I remember happening in like episode fucking 12 or something that happened like episode 3 or 4. Like, Death Note moves extremely fast. It is extremely fast paced. Another thing that I like about Death Note over Geass, in my opinion, is the fact that the world is more believable. I feel like everybody just said pause. What the fuck you mean? This nigga writing names in a book and niggas dying. Okay, I understand that. What I'm saying is that I buy the universe of Death Note more than the universe of Code Geass. Code Geass is very like anime. Like I know they're both anime, but like Death Note seems to be more grounded in reality. Well, as grounded in reality as something could be for a show that's about Shinigamis and writing niggas' name in books and niggas dying and shit like that. It feels more grounded in reality than Geass does. I think it's the tone and the world that's set up. Like, Death Note is like very set on, you know, in a real life scenario, real world shit, and Geass is definitely a lot more fictional. But I guess for me, for an anime that's supposed to be like intellectual and all that shit, I buy into it more with Death Note than I do with Code Geass. So that aspect is a big thing for me, is the universe itself in which the show is set in. Also, if we're talking about like shit getting crazy, Code Geass towards the second season, at the end of the second season, gets super fucking anime. Like, that shit kind of put me off. Like, I don't want to make it seem like I hate Geass, because I loved Geass, but like, that shit gets fucking insane. That shit gets actually crazy. Whereas Death Note at least remains kind of rooted in reality. Also, the second part of Death Note, or I should say like the last third of Death Note, where it gets bad, as some people say, I think people need to rewatch Death Note, in my opinion, because I was under the impression that the last third of Death Note was completely ass, was irredeemable, was trash, right? But upon rewatching it, that shit kind of hit, bro. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the characters that are set up in the third part are really not that bad, and I think the transition from the first part of Death Note to the last part of Death Note, it makes sense, and what happens in Death Note has to happen. I agree that the replacement or whatever is not as good as the original, but different doesn't necessarily mean bad. And I personally think that Death Note stays quality through and through. I will admit, I'm not crazy. It does take a dip, but I don't think the dip is significant enough to write off the whole show. Because I've been seeing, speaking of anime hot takes, I've been seeing a lot of hot takes from people talking about, oh, Death Note trash, Death Note this, yo, fuck Death Note awful or whatever. Cap. all cap, in my opinion. It's just all cap. Death Note still remains one of my favorite anime, and after the rewatch, it's even higher up on my list. I fucking love Death Note, and in my opinion, Death Note is much easier to watch than Geass, and I would much rather watch Death Note over Code Geass any day. I think it took me like a month to watch Geass, and I finished Death Note in like a couple days, and I already knew everything that happened in Death Note. Take that into account. I was completely new to Geass. I had no idea what was going to happen in this show, and it still took me like a month to finish that. Whereas I already knew everything that would happen in Death Note, and that shit took me like a couple days. And on top of that, I was still at the edge of my seat with Death Note. I was still like even though I knew what was going to happen, I was still filled with suspense. That's just great show writing right there. And somebody asked, I just didn't like the story of Geass. No, I think the story of Geass is really well done. I just think that the show can be very, very slow paced to a detriment. And also, the show also sprinkles in these random moments of like slice of life bullshit, which I understand is there to serve as a way for you to get more attached to the characters, because Code Geass is a lot more character driven than Death Note is. But in my opinion, that just detaches me from the story and detaches me from the show, and I just don't really give a fuck. But then again, I'm just somebody that doesn't really give a fuck about slice of life shit. In fact, I hate it. So yeah, I guess that's just my opinion on that. So second anime hot take, Death Note over Code Geass. And the last one, pause the lo-fi for this one. You niggas need to hear this. I feel like this is the one where I think a lot of people come at me for. Hunter x Hunter is ass. Okay, obviously that's cap. It's not ass. Hunter x Hunter is mid. Hunter x Hunter has top 3 anime arcs of all time in it. Chimera Ant arc. Even though the Chimera Ant arc starts off incredibly slowly, it has to. You have to understand that in order for the Chimera Ant arc to be as great and as legendary as it is, you need to have that slow burn in the beginning. It's just part of it, right? And I would be a hypocrite if I had talked about JoJo's Part 3 having that, doing a similar thing, and then roasting Hunter x Hunter for it. It can get boring in the beginning of Chimera Ant arc, I'm not going to lie, but it's completely necessary to tell that story. That is top 3 anime arcs, up there with like Soul Society arc and Bleach, and you could name a third one, I don't really give a fuck, but it's up there. Those 2 are like the best anime arcs. Hunter x Hunter, Chimera Ant arc, fucking amazing, okay? And then York New, also a great arc. I wouldn't put it, like, I would rather watch York New, and I think York New is more easily watchable and more digestible than something like a Chimera Ant arc, because Chimera Ant arc is so fucking long and has such a slow burn in the beginning, whereas York New is a lot more fast paced. But in terms of like the genius of the writing and like the impact and how it bends, the shonen genre and shit like that, Chimera Ant arc is certainly more, I guess, masterful than York New. But York New would be the other arc in Hunter x Hunter that I feel like is great. My problem with Hunter x Hunter comes from the fact that people will regard it as the best shonen or the best anime, and then shit on every other person who has a different favorite anime, okay? Like, look, I love Bleach. I am fully aware that a lot of people hate Bleach. I understand that. I understand that, you might think that after the Soul Society arc, Bleach takes a nosedive. That's completely fine. I don't really give a shit, right? But every time I say that type of shit, people got to come through with like, just watch Hunter x Hunter. Hunter x Hunter is better. The people that love Hunter x Hunter will get on and just trash on every other anime because Hunter x Hunter is so much better. That shit is like complete fucking cap, okay? Hunter x Hunter has some of the slowest, like, most painful moments I have seen in a battle shonen anime. Like, I remember I was watching Hunter x Hunter with my boy Ham, and I'm sitting here talking to him, and I'm like, Ham, please, for the love of God, let me stop watching this show. I was begging him. I'm like, please, I don't want to watch this shit anymore. I'm so bored. I'd rather be doing anything else. But, you know, I persevered. He told me to keep watching. It gets a lot better. And there are moments in these horrible arcs, in my opinion, where, you know, the show shines. But to get to those moments, like, do you know how much shit you have to fucking go through? Like, sometimes I think about like the great parts of Hunter x Hunter, and I'm like, damn. Like, I really want to rewatch Hunter x Hunter. And then I think about, oh, the show is largely boring and uninteresting and is all like world building and exposition. I'm not going through that. Hunter x Hunter, in my opinion, will test your fucking will, will test your fate. That shit is boring as shit. And like that might be considered my hottest take, but Hunter x Hunter, I think, should be watched by people who love shonen, and I think is worth a watch, if not just for the Chimera Ant arc alone. But you got to understand, this is over 100 and some odd episodes of an anime to ask somebody to watch, where, in my opinion, the majority of Hunter x Hunter is, like, at worst, like, fucking boring, and then at best, like, actually like some of the best anime you'll ever watch. Like, it's so polarizing, because it's like I said, like the good parts of Hunter x Hunter, easily the best shonen anime I've ever watched, like up there with Bleach. And like, again, I dick ride Bleach. I know a lot of people are gonna come at me, oh, Bleach sucks, you know, whatever. Yeah, fuck you, bitch, your mama hoe. But like, I love Bleach. I have an attachment to Bleach, and the good parts of Hunter x Hunter, I just be like, damn, like this shit is amazing, man. But then there's other parts where I'm just like, dude, I just can't do it. I just can't take this shit no more. But yeah, those are my 3 anime hot takes. Leave some of your anime hot takes in the comments down below if this does get uploaded to YouTube. I don't know. But yeah, I'm interested to see. I'm also very interested to see how big this dislike bar gonna be. Hope y'all gave me a chance, but if not, fuck you. I don't like you anyways. One Piece sucks.